See, I just don't get what's the big deal with this game. All you have to do is pick order and pretend you are the Soviet Union. Because in Soviet Russia, cold feels you. So, hello everyone, today I want to talk about a game that I played recently that has been quite popular from the developers of This War of Mine, which is also one of my favorite games, but today's game is Frostpunk. And I just love this whole steampunk appeal mixed with the cold survival idea. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Sunless Sea in that regard, like in that whole steampunk aesthetic. The graphics are good, but the fact that you cannot zoom in too much to appreciate these great details on the building is just too painful. Like when you put those buildings together, you can see them like forming together as I'm about to show you in the clip. Gameplay wise, it's as good as a steam engine high on nitroxide. You keep balancing the survival supplies such as coal and food, and then use that to feed your workforce, and then you save the wood and steel for the growth of your town. It's stressful at the beginning because you will need to use your limited starting resources that spawn on the ground and turn that into a sustainable gain, which means you must rush for steelworks, otherwise it is easy to run out and potentially get stuck. Wood is plentiful since you can get it from the sawmill and the wall drill later in the game, while steel is a lot more scarce. Still, it has a pretty good balance, and writing is, after you progress a little bit towards the exploration side of the game, it becomes really good, and the late game, I won't spoil it, but prepare your resources because winter is coming. Story-wise, to simply put, the greatest enemy of mankind, aka summer, has been defeated, and everyone whose opinion matters is happy. But apparently, people have invented new things to complain about, and can't just enjoy the nice chilly weather. So you have to build your town around the generator in a circular fashion, which is quite a fun. And it's quite a good challenge for the city planning. There are also smaller stories, and the overall progression of your town with passing all the laws and dealing with riots, etc. I felt overall in time my control over the status of the town just improved while difficulty scaled a lot less. But that's only possible if you have planned your town pretty well with the heat drops and the bonus buildings all in mind, not to mention the refugees. Oh god, the refugees. So, which will cause your population to rise. In fact, by the end, I had hundreds of people unemployed, and it was all just fine. However, you still need to manage the food and the heating of all of those people. The smaller stories, such as Winterhome and Tesla City, are also very well written. There are a ton of smaller events that go by and are pretty interesting, but I do have one gripe. How in the unholy name of fuck do they program the automatons? You see, automatons are these huge spider machines that can do any job, and when fully upgraded they do, as well as a whole workforce. The fucking thing can basically do any job, and it doesn't have any digital input, from what I've seen. So how do they give it a complex commands to an analog automaton? That's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. So play it and you'll see what I'm talking about. Probably you won't have the same problem unless you're a computer scientist. So in terms of presentation, the graphics are great, especially for this genre. The steampunk aesthetic is like dating a 10 out of 10 steampunk cosplayer. And you know, it's probably as toxic as the working conditions in the Victorian era, but damn fine to look at. The snow is the big thing. So if you zoom in, you can see how people dig through the snow, building shoddy Victorian streets. It's all just breathes that aesthetic. The music is, in my opinion, is just as good, but sometimes gets drowned in all the planning you do, still fairly engaging and is not too distracting. The game is quite memorable in a lot of ways, just like This War of Mine, of which I still have not recovered from. I still have the flashbacks. Oh man, And all I still remember, just to give you a quick story, I had to rob those old people and those kids, and by selling alcohol, my characters became richer during the war than before the war, I'm pretty sure. So if you play your cards right by the end game, you can have a city better than the one the people escaped from. But then again, considering they were running from London, that's probably not much of a challenge. In conclusion, if you want something a bit different, but that's not too difficult, but hard enough to keep you on your toes, to challenge your planning and resource management skills, definitely buy it. It's very much worth the price and a very memorable experience. I give this game Icicle out of Ice Cube Tray.